minutes, you get an opportunity to review that?
Excuse me?
Get an opportunity to review that as a motion?
Your Honor, I told you that's something I have to talk to God about. That's on His timing.
Okay.
You know, I understand,
Where
you
do you have to
know.
talk to him about that, here or outside?
Your Honor,
Come on up.
I mean, let me point out, you know, I've already been dealing with you not thinking that the attorneys you're insisting represent me, communicate me with before today. You know, I would like to talk to God. I would like to go into my secret closet. I'd like to spend time worshiping and communicating with God and setting this motion. You know, I was owed that before today, before you asked if we had to go to trial, you know. I should have had all the information and presented this time to practice my faith and talk to God about everything that He's already done for me before.
Is your secret closet in the courtroom? Because we're going to talk about these motions today. So
Are you mocking my
faith? No, you have to speak with your secret closet about the motion, so I need to know where that is. That way we can talk about the motions today.
Your Honor, this is a religious freedom. I need to be able to go and spend time worshiping.
Well,
do you know, I mean, we're not,
I'm not preventing you from practicing your faith. What I'm trying to do.
Yes, you are. You're preventing me from addressing all the things that you did not want to make sure I had before today.
Okay.
You're insisting that I be able to talk and discuss with everything that I just got presented with before I talk to God. And that's actually not fair. I need to be able to talk. If I cannot talk to God before I talk to you, then you're just going to have to do what you need to do.
All right. Well, if you want to go outside and talk to God.
No. We don't have the time. God, like I said, God is on His timing. You know what I'm saying? It's not your timing. God is not on your timing, Your Honor.
Okay.
I respect your timing, your authority over this court, and if you can ridicule me talking about going into my secret, you know what?
You said you're going to a secret closet.
That's a secret
closet.
That's a secret place spiritually. Okay. When you go, when it's time to talk to God, for Him to deal with your heart, to deal with the things that are weighing on your heart, to deal with the things at job, at work, you know, to deal with the things with your children and your family. That's the secret place. Okay. The secret place is that worship, and I need that time. If you cannot give me, you know, as long as you've given every other attorney the opportunity, you know, to keep coming back here, you know, if you cannot give me time, actually, Your Honor, I haven't had this time to. I'm trying to.
This is our 13th pretrial.
Yes, Your Honor. And you're just now giving me everything that you want to talk about. You said it, right? This is our 13th pre-trial, and I'm just getting information you want to talk about.
Okay.
You know that.
We need to talk about it.
Okay. Well, then why are you trying to convince me that it was fair for you to throw in my face? Trying to manipulate me, believing like it's my fault. I'm just getting information on the 13th pre-trial. Why do you think it's fair? As many attorneys as we've gone through, why are you insisting?
I will answer your question. You have decided that you wish to represent yourself. You did it at the last go around.
Because they won't give me information in a timely manner.
I'm answering your question.
Things like that.
I'm answering your question. So, you decided that you wish to represent yourself. For whatever reason,
actually,
Your
Honor, I accepted Mr. McGreen representing me, but you won't tell me why at the day of trial I had to represent myself.
Well, you didn't. We haven't had a trial yet. So,
that's right, because he left,
you have decided to represent yourself with all its pitfalls, the faults and strengths that go along with it. Okay?
I've decided to talk to God, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm not giving you any additional time to discuss the motions and limiting. All right? That doesn't mean...
I didn't expect you to either.
Okay. Then that works out well. So, the question is, do you want Mr. Montrone to now jump on your case, or do you wish to continue to represent yourself? Because, as we discussed the last go-around, you have a constitutional right to represent yourself, right? And we talked about all the potential...
You think I'm bluffing, Your Honor?
What's that? Okay, so you have a constitutional right to represent yourself. I just didn't hear whatever you said. You have a constitutional right.
Why? That's not fair to me. That you're not paying attention. Well, you're throwing up in my face.
I'm sorry about interrupting
child, and you weren't paying attention.
Disrupt your filibustering. So you have the opportunity to represent yourself. You've chosen to do that. You have to comply with the rules of criminal procedure. You have to comply with the Florida statutes. That is what is clear as clear can be, and I made that clear beforehand. So,
I've made it clear that I'm not going to allow the attorneys to misrepresent me
Okay.
by making
Misrepresent
sure that I
yourself.
don't get relevant information till after you're insisting that we.
I said at the last pretrial date also that this will be a pretrial date to discuss motions in limine. Here they are. You've had an
And
opportunity to review them.
why aren't you concerned with that I'm just getting all the motions?
They were given to your standby
And
counsel.
why aren't you concerned with the standby counsel not providing me with
He did.
relevant information that you know you wanted
He
to talk
gave
to
them to
today?
you, and
Why-
he gave you an opportunity to review them.
You're trying to convince me that him just giving them to me today is okay, fair?
All
Your
right,
Honor,
well, we're
come
gonna talk about them anyway. So states motion limiting number 1. There shall be no reference, and if you want at any point, by the way, to tag in the attorney to argue these on your behalf, that doesn't mean that you're giving up your right to represent yourself at trial. It just means that you want them to argue motions. The choice is yours. But here we go. Number 1, there shall be, this is the state's motion limiting, I'm just reading. There shall be no reference or comment to the defendant's belief that God is using this situation to identify the culture and atmosphere among amongst public agencies that allow my rights to be violated without due process. Any reference to the defendant's religious beliefs is irrelevant and prejudicial. Ms. Tanasi, after you. It's your motion.
Yes, Your Honor.
Fix the judge.
This is a direct quote from the defendant on the day that he was trespassed. The state is moving to exclude any statements made about God or how God is calling him to be here, along with any mention of an infringement on his civil liberties. It's not relevant and it's confusing to the jury for it to be heard.
Okay, response, Mr. Hicks.
Is she referring to evidence that of my arrest? Is she trying to suppress the evidence from my arrest?
Well, I don't want to speak for her. Ms. Tanasi, can you clarify what you're asking?
Your Honor, any and all references to this defendant's religious beliefs or violation of civil liberties throughout the entirety of the trial.
Okay, so that's what she's asking to make sure it does not go in front of the jury.
Yes.
Your response, Mr. Hicks.
That's literally part of the body cam footage of the arrest of this trespass complaint.
Well,
Does
that's
she
what she's
intend
talking
to
about, right?
suppress? I would like to know, does she intend to suppress the body cam footage from the arrest?
If you can
Because
clarify,
that
if you can
is
clarify what
say
you're,
that's
what
what
you're
she's
talking about.
referring,
Ms.
where
Tanasi.
she got it from, right?
Your Honor, the state does plan to introduce a portion of the body worn camera.
Oh, just not all of it?
Yeah, what portion are you looking to keep us? Just that
Just
statement?
everything that
I'm
that
asking her,
doesn't
I'm
have
asking
right.
her, we can guess, or we can ask.
Good, I'm glad this is getting cleared up.
Your Honor, the state's only planning to introduce about a 30 to 40 second clip of the defendant being observed at the bus station where he's trespassed from, admitting to being trespassed from the bus station.
Okay,
Why, so I'd like to point out, this is a very convenient attempt, just to make sure, no one, in fact, I think it's only fair. In fact, if a jury of my peers cannot understand, if the state is saying that a jury of my peers will be confused, what are we, and that's why they want to limit just a basic arrest? I mean, how did
so making sure the arrest comes in, I think that's the point. There's
Yes,
no
but
discussion of that religious matter.
if I'm entitled to a jury of my peers, I'm expecting a jury of my peers to also have people that prayed.
That's not how it works though.
Oh, yes, a jury of my peers. There's gonna be, there's so many people in
Right.
Pinellas County that have faith.
Oh, that's fine.
You
What
might,
I'm saying-
and they trust God in whatever they do,
That's
whether it be on a jury, or whether it be at the clerk's office, or whether it be,
What I
they
say
trust
is
God to
I
keep
think
them
what I say
safe
is
and
that
help
the
them
jury
make the
panel in
decisions.
Pinellas
But
County
yet
is
I
picked
cannot-
by a random selection of driver's licenses in Pinellas County. That's how they're picked, just to be clear.
Yes, and I'm telling you, Your Honor, you know the basic fundamental proportion of faith-based, of the faith-based population.
Okay.
Are you trying to convince me that there won't be anybody of faith?
No.
In fact, the
No.
state is trying to convince me that no one will be able to understand my faith and how it relates to me being, in fact,
That's
Your
true.
Honor,
Yes.
what my faith is God's holy word.
Okay.
By the Judeo-Christianity that even this criminal justice system was built off of, and the state is saying that no one will be able to understand how it relates to being charged,
That's true. That's true. That's what they're trying to keep
but,
out.
and how it relates to destiny, how it relates to just God not making any mistakes with whatever, even the worst that you can do to me. The state is saying that I cannot be represented by my faith and trusting God for whatever the worst that you can do. The state is trying to convince you that I cannot represent my faith in my defense. That's what you're complicit with. You're complicit with them even encroaching on my religious liberty. And you and I both know that they need to have a compelling reason, not just simply they think a jury's going to be confused.
Okay, so the trespass jury instruction states to prove the crime of trespass on property other than a structure or conveyance. The state must prove the following 4 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. This is the standardized jury instruction. 1, Jacob Hicks willfully entered upon or remained in property other than a structure or conveyance. 2, the property was owned by and the lawful possession of Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority. And then whatever applies next, about notice not to enter upon or remain in that property had been given by actual communication to the defendant of the property in the manner defined in this instruction, or the property was the unenclosed curtilage of a dwelling, and Jacob Hicks entered it or remained with the intent to commit a crime thereon other than trespass. The 4th element is Jacob Hicks entering upon or remaining in the property was without authorization, license, or invitation from Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority or any other person authorized to give that permission. And those are the elements of the crime. There are no elements of the crime that discuss anyone's religious faith as a defense to that. So what is relevant for the jury to determine?
Is coordinating with you to limit my defense.
Well, they're asking me to say whether or not.
Yes, but you know why they would feel free to convince you that they can
there to
infringe on my
determine
religious
whether
freedom
or not
just because they
the
think
state
somebody
has
might
proven a
be
case
confused.
beyond a reasonable doubt. Has the state been able to prove those 4 elements beyond a reasonable doubt? That is up to the jury to determine whether or not the facts fall into those legal elements. If they have, you're guilty. If they have not, then you're not guilty. But part of the issue is that later on in the jury instruction it talks about the rules for deliberation. You must follow the law as out of these instructions, etc. There's also, you can't decide for or against anyone because you feel sorry or angry at anyone. Sympathy can't come into play, all those types of things. And the discussion that about that sentence.
I'm referring to my faith,
Yes.
not sympathy. I don't need sympathy.
Okay.
All I need
It
is
has to
God.
be, so all evidence put before the jury has to be relevant. That's the starting point. Under
Yes, but
Florida
you're
Statute
even
94.1.
entertaining this.
Whether or not, whatever your religion is not relevant to the purpose of trespass.
Actually, Your Honor, all I'm referring to the fact is you're entertaining the notion that the state doesn't want me saying that God doesn't make any mistakes with me.
Okay. Number 2 states that the state's motion limited. So there shall be no reference or comment to any statements the defendant made if offered by the defendant. So it's a self-serving hearsay. So essentially, Ms. Tanasi, after you, I should say.
Yes, Your Honor, this is essentially saying the defendant can't offer any of his own statements made unless it falls under some hearsay exception. Only the state can offer the defendant's statements.
All right. So, Mr. Hicks, that's a basic rule of criminal procedure. Any argument that you wish to make on that? You can still talk about what happened, that's fine.
What does it matter, Your Honor? You don't want me to talk to God.
I am perfectly happy with you talking to God, but number 2, do you have any additional argument in regards to number 2? Motion limited number 2, that was just discussed.
Your Honor, it doesn't matter.
Okay, well, if it doesn't matter, then go ahead and grant it. Number 3, there shall be no request by the defendant for a jury pardon. Ms. Tanasi.
Your Honor, the state is seeking to exclude any request that the defendant asks for sympathy or for the jury to ignore the law in terms of a closing argument or any argument made during the trial.
Do you have any argument, Mr. Hicks, in regards to that?
Your Honor, do you grant them just because?
No. They're saying that the
What
request
reason
is...
do you have to grant it?
Well,
why are you
law,
granting it just because they asked?
No, because the Florida legislature, the Florida Supreme Court says I have to follow the law. And if that's the law, I'm
And
going to
so
follow
the
it.
law says that the state can say, I cannot have a faith-based defense.
You're saying that you can't ask for a jury pardon, so you can't ask...
cannot ask this court to prevent me from a faith-based defense. That is a gross infringement on my religious liberty. Without, come on now, what compelling reason does the state of Florida, why do they want to make sure that I cannot respond to these charges with my faith?
Because the
How
evidence has to be relevant.
disgusting is that, Your Honor?
The question
Why
is,
do you
there
accept that?
shall be no request by the defendant asking for a jury pardon. So what that says is that you cannot ask the jury, and the state can ask for it also, but usually applies to the defense, for them to ignore the law as given. That is an improper argument in front of the jury. So do you have any other argument in regards to that?
That's correct, Your Honor. The law as given says the state cannot infringe upon my religious liberty.
Well, that's not
And
true.
with that said, a faith-based defense is my religious liberty.
Okay.
And yet they feel free to infringe upon that in this court. But then again though, that is why we're here, because public employees believe they can have any old reason to infringe upon my religious freedom. You know that. You and I both know that. That's why you buried that's why you don't want why I was trespassed from a public place, a public service. That's why you don't want anyone to know why. Because you know it's a religious freedom. That's why the state doesn't want me responding with my faith. Even if I never refer to, the state is literally arguing, and they feel free. What you have to understand, what your court has been reduced to, is that the state feels free to try to prevent me from responding with my faith. And you've done that too. You've disregarded any attempts for me to talk to God about motions that I'm just now getting. You reduced my faith, my communication with God to goes outside to the courtroom pretending and saying, can I go get anointed with oil? Can I go assemble the church leaders? Can I have time to talk with God? Can I get the...
Yes, you have until Thursday to do that. Number 4 though, Ms. Nancy, there shall be no reference concerning the validity of the arrest, as it has no bearing on the guilt or innocence of an accused. Ms. Nancy, after you.
Yeah, Sharon, that goes to that civil liberties argument, as well as the first motion limiting again, just it would be irrelevant and prejudicial.
All right, do you have any, prejudicial, that's not the standard, I suppose, it was irrelevant, right? So, do you have any response to motion limiting number 4, Mr. Hicks?
Actually, I think it may be time for me to tell you why what God is doing, actually, with me. I think
Well,
just...
none of us read it, argue whether or not you have
it'll
number
answer your
4.
question.
Do you have an objection to number 4, yes or no?
It is the answer. It is the answer to that very question.
Okay, so what's the answer to that question?
God is allowing this to happen because He wants to expose what you're doing.
Okay. So,
What the state is doing, what the public agencies are doing, what they've done, and what you will do, even after everything I've taught you today. That is why I can drink this stuff. That's why I got picked for this. So everyone can see what this court is doing.
Okay.
What the public agencies, what the state is doing, why the state is literally trying to prevent me from responding to a criminal charge with my faith. God wants everyone to know that the state of Florida does not want people responding to criminal charges with their faith.
Okay, well, you can argue, of course, that the state has not met its burden of proof, but you cannot argue that the arrest wasn't, the validity of the arrest. You can just say that you weren't actually trespassed. So
We've already decided that, Your Honor.
Well, I just decided it.
That's
Number 5, any interjection of personal opinions by the defendant in closing argument. Well, I guess that's one's a little squirrely, Ms. Nancy, do you have anything more specific on that?
Your Honor, just that the defendant's closing argument be based on analyzing the facts that are in evidence and not going off of non-record or personal opinions, beliefs. It goes again to his beliefs of God intervening again with the proceedings here.
All right, any argument, Mr. Hicks?
Your Honor, I wouldn't be referring to God intervening, honey. God is in full
Judge
control.
Judy.
He's the one who decided all of this. He picked everyone to be here today. He's the one who got me ready for today. Conquered every issue in my personal life. We're intervening. God is the one who brought us here. She's worried about him showing up next week, please. This is what God is doing.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll go ahead and grant number 5 to the extent that there's any improper argument. So, we are set for trial next Thursday. Now, to be clear, this is a very important point for me to make, Mr. Harris. I talked about it during the Beretta inquiry. Mr. Montrone will be here, correct, Mr. Montrone?
Yes.
All right, is that if you, and this is for anybody, I'm not saying this to discourage you from anything, but I do want to talk about the fact that during the Beretta inquiry, we talked about that if you are
What Beretta inquiry?
that's the case, generally speaking. It's called Beretta inquiry that we went through to discuss your willingness and desire to represent yourself.
Are you referring to just today?
No,
or
the last 4 days.
Yes, Your Honor, we've already been through that. Please do not try to get me to.
I have to ask you, and I'm gonna ask you
You're
again.
gonna ask this again because you don't want me to be certain.
No, because the Supreme Court says I have to ask you. So if
No,
the answer,
the Supreme Court does not have to say you have to try to bully my certainty. I told you this last time.
Right, but I have to ask you, and if your answer
before I just
is-
got back up here. And
if your
don't want
answer
me to be
is
certain.
simple as, do you still wish to represent yourself?
I've
Yes,
already
okay, great.
represented-
Then we'll keep going.
What's changed, Your Honor?
I have to ask you.
What's changed since the last time?
Clearly nothing. So,
Actually, I do know what's changed.
oh, what's that?
I got some new evidence from the state.
Okay.
And all these.
Have you got any evidence? Have you got any
Oh,
evidence?
that's right. I got new emotions and everything.
Right.
That's what's asked since the last time you asked me if I wanted to represent myself.
Okay.
I got presented with motions
Okay. Well,
the attorney you've had on standby has had all this time.
Okay, so now that you've gotten that, do you wish to have him represent you now, or do you wish to represent yourself?
Nothing's changed since you asked me that, 20 minutes ago?
Well, you just said that something changed. That's
No,
what I'm asking.
I told you nothing's changed, Your Honor.
Okay, well, that's.
I'm not
so,
bluffing. I
Just,
have to talk to
okay, I
God.
think you're bluffing. I think there's nothing about anything you've been saying that makes me think that you don't want to represent yourself, so.
But you
that
keep
being said-
asking.
Because I have to.
No.
Okay,
No.
all right, well, reasonable minds may disagree on that. So, on the date, well, it's Thursday, right, just to be clear? Madam Clerk, has been lost in the mix here, or Mr. Nasty?
Yes.
All right, Thursday.
Yeah, sure.
So we'll do that, and again, your representation, your self-representation can be terminated if you are disruptive. I hope you're not in front of the jury, okay? So, just to be clear, here's how.
Are you trying to plant that seed? Is there?
No, I want that to not happen. I want everything to be smooth.
Why are you trying to assume that might?
Because you have been disruptive, and not really.
I have
putting
been
things in the
I
appropriate
pled not guilty. That's disruptive.
No, that's not.
You made it clear you were just trying to make sure these.
You're constantly talking over me, you're
proceedings
constantly being
go
argumentative, and that's
Your
okay.
Honor, come on now, Your
I
Honor.
just want to make sure that we're good in front of the jury, that's the key, okay?
Your Honor, haven't I been good in front of you?
So,
Exactly.
At times, yes, at other times, no. So, here's the deal. Here's how a trial works. On Thursday, we're gonna have a jury come up, a panel. We're gonna go through jury selection. The state gets, I ask them questions, the state asks them questions. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions of them that are relevant to whether or not only they can be a fair and impartial juror. That is the only line of questioning we're allowed to ask. After a jury is selected, then there will be opening statements by the state, and then you. That's not time for argument, that's just time for opening statement. The state will call their witnesses. You will have an opportunity to cross-examine every one of those witnesses, all right? After the state rests their case, you have an opportunity to make any legal motions you wish to make. After that, you can call any of the, I don't think there's any witnesses listed from the defense, but so if you wish to testify, you have a constitutional right not to testify, just to be clear. If you wish to testify, you can as well, but that would be the time, and the state can cross-examine you. After that, there's time for any legal motions, and after that, there's closing arguments. The state gets to go twice. They get to give an opening or closing argument, then you, then the state, and then the jury deliberates. That's how a trial works. So, we will see you on Thursday at 8:30. If you need to, Mr. Montrone, can you give him contact information if he doesn't have it already?
I will.
All right, so we're gonna make sure that you have your
Don't
standby
you
counsel.
need to contact me?
What's that, I'm sorry?
Well, it's just.
Well, he's not your attorney, so he doesn't have to contact you.
Oh, okay.
He's standby counsel, so if you want to talk to him, it's incumbent on you to reach out at this point.
He didn't wanna let me know that the state doesn't want me responding with
Oh,
no papers.
he
He didn't wanna let me know they were gonna.
Can you give one copy to Mr. Hicks, one copy
So
to
why would I
the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
These are the proposed jury instructions. Usually we give them on the day of trial, but we've got these so you can review them between now and the trial date, okay? All right, so we'll see you on Thursday at 8:30 for a trial.
Can I bring up one scheduling matter with the trial? I have a formal review here at 2:00.
Okay.
On the day of the trial that I have to attend.
Do they Zoom on that or is it- Okay, we'll accommodate you. Okay, we'll accommodate you. All right, and then Mr. Hicks, and again, Mr. Montreal, if you're leaving, Mr. Hicks, your contact information.
I'll do that soon.
Is there a jury deposit that I need to make? Yes, you know, like, do I need to pay some money so I can make sure that I have a jury my peers?
Jury's coming.
Okay.
Yeah, no, nothing you have to pay.
I only asked because you did previously try to use a parliamentary tactic to deny me a jury of my peers. I just want to make sure, you know, I've got all bases covered, so you can't say, I get to decide.
I promise you it'll not be that. Jury
Well,
will
you've
be on
already
Thursday.
decided.
What's that?
God bless you.
And to you. All right, have a good day. We'll see you on Thursday. No, you're not having to. Please go. All right, thank you, Mr. Montreal. I said thank you. Thank you. Mr. Fortunato.
No, for real.
What?
Don't pay for all.
I'm about to Uber myself.
Like,